Have I ever been called poop gun before? I have been called poop gun maybe by 100, maybe 102 different people. If, not that I mind, but if you think you're being original by calling me poop gun, uh, I feel it's unfortunate. Sad for you. You love the new format. Thank you. Carrot did it. Carrot did all of this. Thank you, the Moo. The Moo, how's your free agent search been going? I see you in solo a lot, and you always have that FA tag, and you always kick my butt. So I would like for you to get on a team so that you can leave me alone in solo queue and go do scrims or something. Be much appreciated. What was I doing? Oh. Twitch says you can't change your name for 2 more weeks. Oh, I was talking about like in the game. But yeah, I guess the Splat fam. I guess you would need a new Twitch one, but fair enough. Oh, excuse me. All right. Yes, we'll talk about Barbie's dream house. Don't worry. You think I wasn't going to mention Barbie's dream house at some point? There is I looked at every single team name and I made a list of which ones are good and which ones are horrible. Um, I'm not pulling any punches today. Some of you have bad pickup team names and need to be shamed for it. Can't let atrocity slide. All right. Enough of that. All right. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Popcast. Whenever you're listening to this, whether it be live or a VOD, Twitch or YouTube, while you are oogling over the new overlay, which was done by my friend Carrot, helping me figure out how to convert these streams to Spotify, which I know a lot of you have been asking for. Tweeting out yet another trendy tweet. Like, press 1 if you have a crush on me, using the excuse of, oh, I'm just bored. Whatever it is that you're doing right now, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this. Unless I don't. Quick news update on some things before we get into the topics at hand. First off, I have a new overlay here, and it looks like something that wasn't made by a 30-year-old man with the artistic skills of a kindergartner. As I mentioned, my friend Carrot has made this overlay for me. And look at that. Look, you got all my socials right down here. You got the chat in a nice corner. You got the actual topics listed out. One thing I've always kind of worried about is I know some people watch the podcast specifically for certain things, and they might not be interested in certain topics, but they're like, well, I don't know when it actually happens. So what I'm going to try to do is just move this arrow around. So if you're watching a VOD of this and you're like, I just want to know what the top 10 is, just skip on down the video to the point to where that arrow is pointing at the top 10. How about that? But I mean, if you're here right now, obviously you want to hear everything I have to say and then some, which is good. You will be a better person by listening to everything I have to say. But if you're just here for certain sections, new nice feature for you there, as I try to accommodate to all of you morons. Not next Monday, because next Monday is going to be the big long low ink recap. But the Monday after that is going to be my 25th episode of the Popcast. Whoa! Coincidentally, it is also the last Monday of the year. That is the 28th? So, what I want to do for those two things combining together is to create some sort of state of the lower level community podcast episode, since there's not going to be any tournaments to cover anyway. So we're just going to talk about everything that happened in the past year as far as the lower level community is concerned. And I also want to do some sort of like a fan-based award thing where like we recognize the team of the year, as I throw my pen, maybe the captain of the year, the TO of the year, maybe the match of the year, stuff like that. I haven't quite figured out what all categories I want to do, but I'm at some point next week, I'm going to start putting out things on Twitter for people to nominate people or teams for those specific categories and let you guys vote. And we'll do some sort of like shout out to to the people, or whatever. I don't want it to be 100% my opinion, even though I know my opinion is better than you guys. I want you guys to have some sort of input on that as well. But that's just something I'm just kind of kicking around in my head, just putting it out there. Let that soak in your mind, and if you have ideas about that, be sure to let me know. The SAC announced that they are going to be doing a podcast today at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm not affiliated with the SAC in any way, but I did want to give them a plug. They did come on to my show and give an interview, or allowed me to interview them with some questions about some things. So to return the favor, I do want to plug their stream because I'll be paying attention to it. Probably not live because I'll be busy at that time, but I'll definitely go back and watch it. And I would recommend you do the same because SAC is hype. And lastly, I did mention a lot of you have been asking about putting this on Spotify. I'm looking into that with no success at all. I don't know how to convert this directly into Spotify. If any of you know how to do that in a way that you could explain to me, very patiently explain to me, I would be very open to hearing that. And figuring out how to do that specifically. So, because I do want to put this on Spotify, I just haven't quite figured that out yet. Now, I've always I was kind of worried because if you're listening to this, then you don't get to see my beautiful face. First off, you don't get to see Stuffle, you don't get to see the moose holding a pop gun, you don't get to see chat. But at the same time, the original idea for this Popcast, if you go back and watch the first episode that's up on YouTube, it was just my logo. That's it. I didn't have the face, the chat, or anything like that. It was just like this was intended originally to just be like something you listen to. So I want to give people who use Spotify the opportunity to access that for what this was originally meant to be. So if you have information that could help me with that, I would greatly appreciate it. Today, I will be recapping the Launchpoint Draft Cup tourney, as well as previewing this weekend's upcoming Low Ink tournament, the last Low Ink tournament of 2020. I have a new and improved 100% guaranteed not to fail top 10 list of teams that are going to win Low Ink, or have the potential to win. I guess all 10 of them can't win in the same month. And it's ready to go. I've been updating it up to the start of this episode, so you know it's fresh. It's perfect. And not a single one of you is going to DM me after I'm done with this being like, oh, you screwed up, you put this team in the wrong spot. I'm going to let you know at the end of the tournament that you were wrong. Like, nope, it's going to be 100% perfect this time. And if it's not, then it's your guys' fault for not living up to my expectations, not the other way around. Don't come at me with that. But first, the new Western Splatoon rankings for the top 60 teams came out this past week, and we have some lower level teams that made the list, so I want to give them a quick shout out. And again, this is now, it was top 50 last month, and last month was the first time they did it. Now we're at 60, so it's going to start bringing in some lower ink teams. But regardless of that, let's give some credit here. First off, at number 59, Tyrant Inc. 58 is Fluency. That is laughable. 56 is Xylo. Port Raccoon made number 55, but I think we can graduate them from lower level at this point. Symphony at 54. See Boys at 53. And then we got... Here's where it gets interesting. Valhalla, the team that finished in second place in Ash Cup and Low Ink last month, is at 49 here. Blue Ring Kraken, who beat them in Low Ink, is at 48. That makes sense. First place team is above the second place team, directly above them. At 44, 4 spots above all of them, is Persistence. The team that didn't even make beta, or they did make beta, but they didn't play on in the last low ink. Is like, whoa, what? How did Persistence get rated up here? I can explain this. And as you guys know, if you listen to a lot of episodes of the Popcast where I do top 10, I tend to give more credit to teams that play in additional tournaments outside of low ink. Persistence doggone plays in just about everything invented. Whether it's a legit tournament or some crap tournament some kid pulled out of his butt, Persistence plays in it. And to their credit, Persistence is consistent in those tournaments that they play in. That's why they're getting rated higher than teams that they traditionally struggle against in these lower level tournaments. They put more on their resume. And I think and again, I had Roundy on when the first rankings came out. And one of the things he said was, this isn't supposed to be a point-based system, but more so based around the eyeball test. And when you put yourself out there to be seen more often, it's shown that you're going to get rated higher than the other teams. That's just how it is. Is Persistence better than BRK and Valhalla? No, they are not. Does that mean they can't beat them? No, that doesn't mean that. But does it mean what they did last month was more impressive? No, but they put themselves out there more often. So that's why they're ranked higher than that. And I think they deserve that. I honestly do. I honestly feel like if they're going to do everything under the sun, they deserve some credit for it, especially since they consistently get about the same results in everything that they do. For those of you paying attention to High Ink, the team that won it, Priority, they're number 3 on this list, just below FT Win and Sonder. So for those of us that played in High Ink this past weekend, and if you're wondering why we're excited that Stargaze took one game off of those guys, it's because they're pretty doggone good in this tournament. I'll briefly mention High Ink. A lot of fun. Destiny Troops enjoyed playing in it. Let's see. Stargaze playing in it. I'm surprised how good they did. Not because I think they're a bad team or anything, but I just felt like this was a tournament that was loaded with a lot of really good teams. If you told me who was going to be the team that took down, or not take down, but the team that would like go up against Priority in grand finals, I probably would not have picked Stargaze. So obviously a really good tournament for them, and Stargaze is number 31 on this list. I wouldn't be surprised if they took a few jumps up next month based off of what they did here in this tournament. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I know the TOs worked really, really hard on this tournament. And I know a lot of you in chat participated in this tournament as well. So it was a fun little thing to do. But that's not a lower level tournament, so we're not going to spend time talking about it anymore on the podcast. We're moving on. With this top 50 or top 60 list, one thing I pointed out, because this is the intent of this, at least according to some of the staff members that work on this top 60 list, is to override, I guess, eventually replace Ludi as a ranking system for our community, which is good, because using Ludi as a ranking system is bad. It's just seeding for a specific tournament. But in order for this to take over, it needs to cater to lower level teams in some way, right? Because if the Div 5 teams on down do not show up on anywhere on this list, they can't just be like, well, we're just unranked. No, they're just going to be like, hey, we're looking for scrims at Div 5 and below. So it's like, it just doesn't cater to a lot of those teams. And I think that's why they extended it from 50 to 60 to start bringing in some more teams. from the lower level. But that bringing in just 10 doesn't solve the whole issue. It needs, and you can't just rank every single team that's active in the community 1 from 500 or whatever. Um, that would just be a total nightmare. And who would want to be number 500 on that list? How how awful would that be? But let me offer an alternative. Outside of Parias's top 100, I don't know if Parias has made another top 100 recently, but Parias does do like a ranking list for the lower level community in general. But let me offer an alternative. Let's think of something that is that's on a monthly basis, is based exclusively off of tournament results, is something updated monthly, and is something all of you already do. What if, and I saw this, somebody was asking for a scrim. You know how people ask for scrim like Div 3 plus or whatever? Somebody asked for a scrim at here scrim beta bracket level. it clicked to me. It's like, that's it. Low Inc., if you think about it, is our monthly ranking system. Every month you guys compete, and wherever you finished, that's your rank in the lower level community. You're either a gamma, alpha, or beta bracket team, not in that order, jumped around a little bit there, or you're a team that got 2 wins and you finished like 30th in your group or something like that. What if? I mean, that seems like a pretty legit system if you think about it. Again, monthly, and where you finish is where you are. It's a good test to see where you've grown over the course of the month. Low Inc. is like the final exam of the month, of everything you've learned up to that point, except for the past 2 months. It's been kind of more in the middle of the month instead of the very end because holidays and stuff like that. But there you go. I want to see more of that. That's pretty awesome. Whoever, I don't remember who the first person is to do that, but Low Inc. staff noticed that and we kind of laughed about it. But it's true. I would love to see more people in the IPL server. If you're looking for lower level scrims, don't do like here Div 6 to Div 8. Be like, no, we looking for beta bracket level teams. That's the level of scrim we're looking for. We're looking for alpha bracket scrim because we want to get destroyed. Or whatever. What if we did something like that? Stop using Ludi divs. They're not relevant anymore. Are any of you seriously claiming to be Div 7 right now? Like, seriously? Some of you in chat, your official div is like 6. I think Sir Skit is officially a Div 6 player. if you just go by the divs that came out back in it was April when those suckers came out. Could you imagine that? A Div 6 player finishing 3rd place in High Inc. There's something, we don't need to use Ludi divs anymore, people. They're so far gone from being relevant. Div 7 actually. Oh, I overhyped Sir Skit there. He's actually a Div 7 player, excuse me. That's funny. So there you go. That's just something I wanted to point out. I like the top 60. I tell my team not to pay attention to it, not because I think it's a bad thing, but you just don't want to get into the hype. You don't want to build up in your mind of like, oh, we're the 42nd best team in this tournament. And you get in the mindset of like, oh, every team you beat above you is an upset. No, I don't feel that. We beat some teams that were way above us on this list in High Inc., and we don't feel like those are upsets. And if you on the back end, you don't want to be like, if we're 42 this month and then we drop down to like 48, then it gets in your mind. You're like, oh, we're moving backwards. Oh, we're getting worse, or people are passing us up, and that's not really the case. So I tell my team not to focus on the ranking for us specifically. And I would encourage you to take that same mindset. A lot of you get really excited when people notice you do things good, which is great, but don't get too caught up when people point out when you do something bad and you move down. I guess that's kind of I guess that's kind of hypocritical considering I literally make a top 10 list every month. but in all fairness, if you don't like where I put you in the top 10, I'm just some schmuck that has a stuffed animal behind me talking on a popcast. don't don't get caught up in what I say. Just focus on yourself. Work on improving yourself. Other people will notice it, and you'll climb the rankings. Um, the guy, the head of the ranking list, don't trust the rankings. Okay, fair enough. Straight from the horse's mouth, right here. Anyways, let's move on. Popgun confirmed schmuck. I don't totally know what the word schmuck means. I just like saying schma words like that. And I know it's an insult, and I don't mind insulting myself. Let's talk about Launchpoint. Let's talk about Launchpoint. Oh Lord. So this was on Sunday, and I didn't watch it live on Sunday. Because Sunday's kind of like my day off. It's the time that my wife and I spend together. We do our brunch. We do grocery shopping, which sounds odd that I look forward to going grocery shopping with my wife, but when you're married in a pandemic, it's the little things. So I don't just have time to sit down and like watch things live, right? So I waited till later in the night. I was like, all right, I got my clipboard, I got my notes, I got my water. I'm just gonna sit here and I'm gonna watch this short little draft cup tournament. There's two streams of it. One is 7 hours, and the other one is an hour and a half. And good golly, Miss Molly, I genuinely think this is the longest single day tournament in the entire year. Nothing comes to mind that is longer than 8.5 hours in a single day. Now, low ink combined over a course of a weekend is like, 3 hours one day. But let's be generous. 4 hours one day and maybe 4 hours another. Maybe if there's like if like some jackass complains too much in help desk and slows down a round in Swiss or something like that. So maybe you could say low ink combined on both days is 8 hours. But the reason low ink is a 2-day tournament is because people were complaining that 6 rounds of Swiss plus a top 16 single elimination top cut, that was like 6.5 to 7 hours, and people were complaining about that, and understandably so. 8.5, holy cow! Whoa! Now, I wasn't the only person to notice this. I looked at the feedback section, and a lot of people pointed it out. And I know a lot of the Launchpoint staff. Most of them are in chat right now, honestly. They're good people. I'm sure they saw that and took it into account, and I don't think it's going to be an issue going forward. Hell, most of them commentated the entire time. I saw the Moo and Nightwing commentating round 1, and I skipped ahead to grand finals, and they were still commentating. There's no way they actually talked. And you two are both in chat. There's no way you two actually talked for 8.5 hours commentating. That is impossible. That is physically impossible. I've done a few low inks start to finish. And by the end of grand finals, I had nothing left. I started making up team names. Like, my brain just completely melted. And those were like 6.5 hours. 8.5 hours tournament. My goodness. My heart goes out to you guys. That is really, I'm amazed you two are still alive. In all honesty. But my goodness, what a crazy event. So why was it so long? The format is obviously the issue. It was groups. It was 5 rounds of groups that led into a top 16 double elimination tournament. There's the issue. This doesn't need to be a double elim. Just cut out. If you lose, you're gone. Go enjoy your Sunday. Let's just get this over. If it was just 5 rounds of groups, which is fine, totally fine, into a top 16 single elimination, this would be done. Okay, so groups, you would think that would take like 2.5 hours. If everything runs smoothly, which it always doesn't, and I think there were some issues. Teams, especially when you do drafts, you usually need to find like an emergency sub at some point in your tournament. Sometimes you just get stuck with a fourth person who just completely blows you off and never shows up at all. So there's always issues in like these draft slash all-star tournaments that constantly come up that require you to kind of be flexible, which is a nice word we've seen or we've heard a lot up to this point. But how many teams were there? There were 25 teams, and that's a point I'm going to get to later, because I want to wrap this tournament up on a good note, which there's a lot of good things to point out in this tournament, and obviously the number of teams being in there is good enough. So 5 rounds of Swiss, top 16 double elimination, a lot of drops, a lot of delays, but just it's just got to be single elim. I mean, that's such an easy adjustment, and I think that's the adjustment. I saw people in the feedback channel suggest that this be a 2-day tournament. No, you don't need a 2-day tournament for a doggone draft cup. Are you crazy? This doesn't need to be a monthly, or I guess this is a bi-monthly. This doesn't need to be a bi-monthly marathon for a draft cup. Just get it done in an afternoon. It's fine. Why is Low Ink a 2-day system? It's because we wanted to switch to... No. We didn't want to switch. It was because we were starting to get so many teams that it didn't need to be... That it was getting too long. Especially for the EU guys. So like for the EU guys, a 7-hour tournament that starts at 6 o'clock local time for most. Well, I mean, Europe's a wide span. Let's say it starts at 6 o'clock in 7 hours. You're playing in grand finals. You're playing in grand finals in like 2 a.m. local time, versus you're playing against the North American team who's just like, they're tired too, but they're also not like about to pass out tired. They're just kind of bored tired of playing the game for so long and their brain is mush. So that's why Low Ink had to switch to the 2-day thing. The double elimination bracket for Low Ink came into play because we're like, if you make a team come back on Sunday, you can't just have them play one game where they lose and then it's over. You can't do that. It has to be double elimination at the least, so that you can guarantee, hey, you're going to play at least 2 games if you come back and play on the second day. And if it's double elimination, that means only 4 teams will go 0-2. So 12 teams, yes, at least 12 teams will get to play at least 3 games. So that's fair. So that's why Low Ink is a double elimination for Alpha, Beta, and Gamma. But otherwise, there's no need to do a double elim. Double elim drags things out so much. That's why when you see a double elimination tournament, that's all it is. Everybody just gets stuck in double elim and you just go, because that sucker drags on for so long. Look at SOS. SOS has perfected the formula. It has tweaked the formula because we learned from the mistakes. Don't do a top 7 or a best of 7 winners finals. Don't do a best of 5 losers finals. Don't do best of 3 all the way up to grand finals or something like that. So it's like, okay, we learned how to speed things up in the losers bracket and slow things down just right in the winners bracket to where everything kind of meets at the end. But I digress. I feel like I've made the point. Don't do the people suggesting Draft Cup or Launchpoint go to a 2-day system. Stop it. Nobody wants to do that. You might think you want to, but trust me, you don't. Now, the fact that I'm looking at this at night and it's 8.5 hours, I can't properly do a recap of this tournament. I can't just like cherry pick a few games on stream to watch and talk about. So I can't go in depth with that, which sucks. But here's what I'm gonna do instead. We're gonna talk about grand finals, which I did look through. I did watch through that one. So those teams made it. So let's give those teams some recognition for surviving that long. And after we get that, we're gonna talk about your team names, and we're gonna give credit to some of these team names that are good, and I'm going to shame a lot of you because your team names suck, and we need to be better than sucky pickup team names. But first, let's talk about grand finals. It was Cold Knights, I believe, versus Water Resistant, and those two team names, fine. Those fine. As somebody commentating, those are easy things to say. They're easy. Those are easy team names to say. Fine. I will put those in the safe name categories, which safe names are totally fine in my book. The the players on these two teams. For Cold Knights, Shin Dude, who is from Ink Dragons, Armono from Kraken Warriors, Oreo T. I don't know what team Oreo T is on now. I know they used to be on Technical Machine, but I don't know if they're just a free agent or if they're on an official team roster or not. I feel like I've seen them in Low Ink, but I don't know if those were just pickups or what. But it was nice to see Oreo T still active. And then someone whose symbol was just star. I had no idea who that was. I had no clue who that person was. But whoever they were, that was a really strong Slayer. But I mean, if your IGN is just a star symbol, I have no idea who you are. So, if anyone knows who that actually is, give them credit because they were really they were a really good player. For Water Resistant, this is the team that actually won. Ghost from their tag was MI, but I don't know what team that is. I feel like I should know, but I just couldn't find it specifically. Gudako, this player's from Toxic Haze. Mirage, okay, that makes sense. MI Mirage, okay. Is that the Ghost that's actually like a staff member for IPL? Oops, I probably should know that. Daniel from Labyrinth X, I know that tag. And Mark from CIA, I see you. Interesting thing to point out here. Gudako from Toxic Haze and Mark from CIA are both anchor players. Gudako likes to do chargers, and Mark does the splatlings, more notably the Hydra splatling, which I know a lot of Hydra people are in chat today, actually. We're a dying breed. Stay strong, fellas. So it's interesting. It's like, okay, how do you make two anchor players work to the point to where you can win a draft cup tournament with that? Normally, to win a draft or a pickup tournament, in my mind, you just need a strong support player, armor bot, whatever you want to call it, somebody who can really hold down the support slot for you. That is like your cornerstone. And then you just get a couple of good slayers. And then if you want an anchor, you can. If you don't, you don't. But I think the cornerstone is usually a strong support player. They don't really... Water Resistance didn't have this. But Gudako came off of anchor and used Junior. Or at least used Junior for the vast majority of the time that I saw them play. And rocked it really well. So there you go. A player from Toxic Haze, who I'm going to be talking about later, came in strong and had a good tournament here off of their main and provided basically gave the room for everyone else on a Water Resistance to kick butt. Daniel from Labyrinth X, every time I saw them play, they were getting tons of kills. Obviously, Mark holding down the anchor position. So Water Resistance, hats off to them for winning this. They, if I'm looking at the bracket, If I'm looking at the bracket, I am looking at the bracket. Water Resistance and Cold Knights played 3 times. They met in winners finals. Water won 3-1, sent Cold Knights down to losers finals, and then the Cold Knights came back in grand finals, beat Water Resistance 4-2, and then ultimately Water Resistance won the bracket reset 4-0. I did watch those games. It wasn't a 4-0 complete curb stomp. They were close. In fact, one of the tower control games they flat out stole that win at the very end there. I think the Booyah Bomb from Cold Knights just came in just frames too late. So it's not like it was completely lopsided. But there, and one thing I do want to point out here, Water Resistance was the number 16 seed that won this tournament, and Cold Knights was number 11. So what happened? The number 1 and number 2 seed both got eliminated in round 1 of winners. So there you go. Nice little comeback there. The seeding was done randomly. Okay, well, what do I know? Why would it be? Oh, it shouldn't be completely done randomly. It would still be the top team in each group should still get like 1 through 5 or something like that. You would think. But I didn't look too much into that. I don't have time. But again, I hate to keep bringing this up, but how do you play a grand finals when you've been playing in the tournament for 8 hours up to that point? That is crazy. I don't think any of these players, Ghost, Mirage, I don't know if, actually no, I think I've seen Mirage play in some of the SOS tournaments. So I think these are all NA players. Correct me if I'm wrong. And that might be why they're in grand finals, because they're the only ones who were still awake enough to play the game at a somewhat consistent level. But I mean, you look at this, the grand finals, and you just got to think they have nothing left. There's no way. They're probably just playing on autopilot at that point. And which is understandable. And at that point, just raw skill wins. I wasn't like breaking down the grand finals sets to be like looking at it from a perspective of like who's making accurate plays or who's working the best with synergy. It just this team won in the right amount of time. So there you go. Congrats to Water Resistant for beating Cold Knights. I don't know what the prize for this tournament was. I believe last time they got like a pin or something for it. I don't think there's like they might get a role in the server, but I don't think Launchpoint isn't like it's not like Midpoint where if you win this, then you get like accepted into it. A keychain, that's what I'm thinking of. Thank you, Riley. So it's not like they're playing for a spot in something. Most of these, I'm assuming all these people are actually in Launchpoint, because Launchpoint is an application-based thing versus a who wants to vote for me or recommend me for Launchpoint kind of thing, which is great. We don't need that kind of thing in the. I should move my arrow. We don't need that kind of thing in a tournament like Launchpoint, but I digress. Before we move on, let's talk about some names here. I'm going to start off with the good names, or at least the names I like. And it is small, but I do want to give some credit here. The Sour Apples. I like that. I feel like the Sour Apples could be an actual Splatoon team name. So I'll give Sour Apples some credit there. Nice one there. Shy Guys. Now this, I believe one of the players on this team is called Shy, hence why they called themselves the Shy Guys. I like that. That's simple. That Shy Guys is easy to say on stream. It has some meaning behind it, and it also is. It also has some. It's something that has like a double meaning. So there you go. Clever. I like it. Shy Guys gets the job done. This one's dumb, but I like it anyways. My Little Pog Champ. It made me laugh, so I'll give that one credit. Lastly, the last name I liked, Barbie's Dream House. I think this was called Dream House because one of the players on the team is from the Dream Knights, or at least I'm pretty sure they're from the Dream Knights. I think that's what the DK stands for. So Barbie's Dream House. I give that one credit. Good for you. Horrible team names. There's two of them. First off, Launchpoint staff are boring. Well, how about karma for this? This team went 0-4. Ha! How boring can they possibly be? The second one. I shouldn't block that up. Panzerkraftwagen 4. That is like the Roman numerals 4. Tiger. What in the world? So I googled that. Actually, it's a tank. It's like a World War I or II tank of some sort. So that makes sense. And I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. Panzerkraftwagen 4 Tiger. If I were commentating this team, I would just call this like Team Tank. But come on, this Panzerkraft, like, it's all right. Now, I have two team names that are unforgivable. They're simply unforgivable. I said Insurance Agency was the last time I was going to let you guys get away with using the word ink in your team name. So everything ink related up to this point is unforgivable, and you will be shamed for it. How dare you? Attack on Inktan. That one doesn't even work. It's Titan and Inktan. You can't make that switch. That one is unforgivable because it's got ink in it, and it's also unacceptable because it doesn't work. You can't make that switch. So shame on you, Attack on Inktan. I'm giving you a 0 for that. The Ink Panther. Ugh. First off, do any of you even know what the Pink Panther is? I feel like that's a series that was before my time. And probably most of the players that are on CIA that are older than me is probably before them as well. But at least we know what the Pink Panther was. But the Ink Panther, God. Safe names. The Four Musketeers. That's fine. That's fine. I like that. Splatoonies. I'm assuming this is a play off the word Goonies or the movie Goonies. So Splatoonies. Okay, that's safe. JP Comp. I didn't get to see this team. I don't know. I'm assuming they just realized their 4 players don't mesh together. So they went with something they don't understand, which is the comps that Japan constantly uses. So let's just call ourselves JP Comp. That's fine. That's safe. I'll give that a safe one. You gotta give some more effort than this role. I'm giving this to the team that called themselves We Don't Have a Name. Spelled out like it was a sentence, like we is the only word that's capitalized, or the W in we is the only one that's capitalized. We don't have a name. No, come on. You got to give some effort here. Yes, people like me will roast you if it's bad, but I give you praise if it's good. But if you don't give any effort at all, for shame on you. You got to at least try. I can't believe it's not Butter. I didn't look at the roster on this. Was like Butter from Hardcore Noobs playing in this tournament? Or like somebody from Hardcore Noobs was playing or something like that? I can't believe it's not Butter. I would just call this Team Butter. But once again, this is all spelled out like a sentence. I is the only word that's capitalized, so there's no consistency here that would make you think this is a team name. So I can't believe it's not Butter. You got to give a little bit more effort than that. The worst team name in this entire tournament: Thick Thigh Warriors. First off, that's an oxymoron. We don't need warriors for thick thighs because thick thighs save lives. I think everyone here appreciates some thick thighs, all right? We don't need actual warriors to go out there and defend it. It's not something that deserves being defended. Second off, there's nothing that makes me more than hearing commentators say something like, and that's a really nice play by Thick Thigh Warriors. Like it's just a casual thing we're all talk about. Like it's just, oh, well, of course, Thick Thigh Warriors. That's something we just naturally say here in the Splatoon community. Oh my gosh. Stop it, people. Stop it. So, Thick Thigh Warriors, congratulations. You have earned my spot as the worst team name in this entire tournament. But I guess some of you are actually trying to earn that award now, and I feel like the Launchpoint names are just going to become even more ridiculous going forward. Let's wrap up this tournament on the good note. Here are the good things that happened in this tournament. First off, 25 teams played in this. That is a huge number of teams for a draft cup. If we're assuming that a lot of subs had to play in this one, I would say that's about 120 players that played in this tournament. Nice. A+ there. Another good thing from this, we had another tournament on a Sunday. The Lord's Day. Oh my gosh. We're a bunch of sinners here, but we're fine with that because we play Splatoon on Sunday. This is the second tournament I've covered that was on a Sunday that had record numbers. Ash Cup had their biggest tournament ever on a Sunday. Launchpoint tournament having this huge turnout on a Sunday. We don't have to do everything at 1 p.m. Saturday now. Sunday is now officially on the table. We've seen it happen with great success twice now. If you build it, they will come. They will come out and play on Sunday. So nice to see it be successful on that. Good tournament overall. I think feedback was heard by staff. It'll be even better next time. And make sure you thank your local Launchpoint staff member for putting on this tournament and for listening to you and dealing with your bullcrap, because I know a lot of you are difficult to deal with for sure. So thank you, Launchpoint people, for putting on this tournament, and spend the rest of the day trying to catch up on the sleep you missed there. All right, moving the arrow. And we're moving on up. Midpoint draft. Yeah, the midpoint is it's coming up. I forgot about that. That's on a Sunday too, I believe. I don't know if I'm gonna sign up for that or not, but yeah, if definitely try out the midpoint thing for sure. All right, Low Ink, whatever this tournament is. Usually, I would like to start off the Low Ink preview with new teams that I'm aware of that are going to be participating in this tournament for the first time. So far, based off of the 60-ish or so teams, which is a lot of teams for Low Ink to have on a Monday, so this might be a huge tournament by the end of the week. I can't really see any team that's brand new that interests me to this point. There were a couple of new teams, but they had to ask for an exemption request for some of their players, which got immediately denied because I'm not going to go on a full rant this week, but once again, just not playing the game for X amount of months doesn't mean you are now allowed to play in Low Ink if you're a mid-level player. There are other avenues you can use to de-rust besides beating up on lower level teams. So seeing these new teams pop up and then try to bring in a player that they know should not be playing in Low Ink, and then they immediately get denied, and then they're like, why can't we play here? So I don't have anything to say about those teams. I will say this though, instead of talking about new teams of interest, the real story here is the teams that aren't here anymore. The Ravenous Raccoons are on hiatus, which is a weird way of saying disbanded. Vinto Gaming, I think, is done, or at least their captain is, I believe, is a free agent now. Breakfast, I don't know what happened to Breakfast. They seem to be like a good up-and-coming team, but I don't see... I think I saw some of their players be free agents, so I don't think Breakfast is coming back either. So these are some strong teams that we won't see around. So that's really the story. We've talked about how with some of these teams in the higher end starting to leave alpha bracket or leave low ink in general, that we won't be that there's going to be spots for new teams to kind of step up and fill those voids that those teams left. But now more teams are starting to leave, so there's going to be even more spots to fill. As far as like the top 10 or like the usual alpha bracket blue blood teams that we've been seeing in the past. Ravenous is doing a pickup for Low Ink. Three members will be playing in it with a sub. Okay, cool. I'll be sure to keep an eye out for that team then, because that team will probably make alpha bracket depending on who that sub is. If that sub is legal, people, stop trying to bring back monsters from the dead. Oh, they haven't played in X amount of months. I don't care. Go do scrims or something to D-Rust. Don't play in low ink. Come on, guys. My top 3 teams to move up to Gamma Bracket. I used to just do this from like... Well, here, we'll get into that later. My top 3 teams to move up from Gamma Bracket. Number 3, Odyssey, with a musical note at the end of their name. This is kind of cheating because these guys actually played in Gamma Bracket last month, but they did it because teams dropped, so they got moved up. This time around, though, I think Odyssey will qualify for Gamma Bracket outright, meaning they'll make top 24 in their group. Number 2, Elite X. And I don't think it's fair to say these guys will make Gamma. It's just I haven't seen them enough consistently in a tournament yet. They played in the last low ink and they dropped after round 1. But these guys have a really great charger on their team, which you don't really see a lot of good chargers in low ink or anywhere in general. Charger seems like a weapon where if you haven't been playing it for the past 2 years, it's too hard to just pick up and learn it now, especially in this meta that we're in, where you have to, with so much armor, you basically have to land 3 shots to kill somebody. So good to see a nice charger player on Elite X. I think they'll move up out of, well, if they play the whole tournament, I think they'll move up there. Bandit, don't be crying. I know you're a good charger player too. My number 1 team to move up to Gamma Bracket that didn't make it last month, Enigma. This roster is too good. This roster is way too good not to qualify for Sunday. I think they just needed more time to grow synergy together. Working with Cassie, who's been away from the game for a little bit, trying to get sea legs back under them. But these players, these strong Slayers and Jennifer, who dominated the last Launchpoint tournament, plays for Enigma as well. So we or some Slayers from Cosmic Inc., I guess that's what I was saying. Enigma surprised me that they didn't make Gamma. I think they'll make it this time around. My dark horse team to make Gamma Bracket, give me Ink Eye. These guys had a bad November, but they've been active enough in these other tournaments to where you get the sense that they're going to get the experience in synergy necessary to qualify for Gamma Bracket. If not this tournament, it will be a tournament coming soon. But we'll give Ink Eye the dark horse role there. You like Odyssey, not going to lie. Please don't lie in chat. My top 3 teams that will move up to Beta Bracket. Now, this is where in the past I've been like, my top 10 or my top 3 Gamma Bracket teams that will move up. Instead, I want to make it more, anybody can move up to Beta. You don't have to climb one bracket at a time. But all these teams came from the Gamma Bracket. Anyways, number 3, Hardcore Noobs. These guys are real. This is a really experienced team. They made this was their first low ink in a while, and I'm surprised they didn't do better. I would see them as a consistent Beta Bracket team. So I was surprised they didn't qualify for beta bracket. I think they will this tournament around if they come back and sign up in it. Number 2, Inked Dragons. These guys have been in the beta bracket finals before, losing to Patty, or actually I read that backwards. ITAP. So this is a strong team. I'm surprised they didn't. Now people have bad tournaments and they fall down a bracket. We see it. Ask ask a lot of the blue blood alpha bracket teams that didn't make alpha bracket last month. So I think Eat Dragons have a bounce back tournament. Get back to beta here. Number 1, give me the Outcast Ninjas. These guys got upset by Toxic Haze in grand finals of Gamma Bracket last month, but showed that they're on par with Toxic Haze, and I think very highly of Toxic Haze. So I would expect Outcast Ninjas to move up to beta this month, using the experience the game last Sundays in the Sunday of last month's tournament, and move up from here. My Dark Horse team, give me the Splatarians. They were the number 2 seed in Gamma and made losers round 4. Now, qualifying for beta is all about what you do on Saturday as opposed to Sunday, because you can't qualify for Sunday during Sunday, obviously. So finishing number 2 seed in being the number 2 seed in Gamma shows that they're really close there, and Splatarians, a old established veteran team, knows how to get some things done there. I would expect them to make the jump up to beta, and I believe they've been in beta several times in the past as well. That's your team? How many years? How long has the Splatarians been in existence? Because I know I keep track of everything my team does, and I feel like we played you guys a long time ago. Big up for the Splatarians. Hey, top 3 teams to move up to Alpha Bracket. Number 3 is Toxic Haze. They won Gamma Bracket in their first ever low ink. And word on the street is that they've been grinding really hard now. It seemed like Toxic Haze was just more of a project before last low ink. But it seems like they're now actually committed to being a solid team at this point. So I think we're going to see Toxic Haze skip beta bracket altogether and go right to alpha bracket, because that is the skill level they play at. They just might not have the synergy just yet, but I think they will this time around. Number 2, give me Day Old Sushi. A team that I might be, well, CIA people are here, but a team that not a lot of people are even qualified to be on, because you have to be at least 25 to be allowed on the Day Old Sushi. These guys finished just 1 spot short of making alpha last month and finished 4th in beta bracket. So there you go. They had a good Saturday and followed up with a really good Sunday, which is good. We don't see that level of consistency, but those two combined makes me think that either Day Old Sushi can find a way to get that 5th win. They'll qualify them for alpha, or they're good enough to where they can knock off a team that's going to help their opponent win percentage to where they can win the tiebreaker and make alpha bracket. But Day Old Sushi, I liked seeing them last month because they have an option B. In the past, it has been the Sigurd show, and if you shut down Sigurd, it's you pretty much could deal with Day Old Sushi. This time around with their new roster, they have a Robin to the Batman. And they're more difficult to deal with. In fact, I saw a game on stream where Day Old Sushi played without Sigurd and won. So I like the updated roster. They're a stronger team this time around. I think they'll find a way to get back into alpha bracket, which is a spot they've been in the past. My number 1 team to make alpha bracket, it has to be Symphony. These guys bounce around my top 10. They made 2nd in beta. Actually, no, they made 3rd in beta bracket. They followed that up by doing really well in Ink Theory. I believe they went 4-2 in that tournament. So Symphony, at some point, Symphony has to stop messing around with these beta brackets, have a good Saturday, and just become one of these consistent alpha bracket teams. There's no reason for Symphony not to be an alpha bracket. They're a good team, and they're a really experienced team with a lot of synergy. It's just for whatever reason they finished 4-2 or 3-3, and just or tiebreaker just doesn't work in their favor or whatever. But at some point, Symphony is going to fill that void that some of these teams that are leaving have been left open. So look for Symphony to finally make that move back up to alpha bracket and stay there for the foreseeable future. My dark horse team to make alpha brackets. Give me the Ink Titans. And no, not the Inktans, like the Attack of Inktans would want you to think. No, Ink Titans. These guys finished 4-2 last month and made second place in beta, losing to the pickup team called Nuts. But I feel like I don't talk enough about the Ink Titans, and that's probably because I feel like they don't have a signature win yet. Now, they played 2 sets on Sunday last month against Symphony, lost to them 3-2, and then beat them 2-3. Reverse those numbers so that they make sense. You know what I mean. But basically, they were even with Symphony in beta bracket last month. So why do I have them as a dark horse when I have Symphony at number 1? It's because Symphony has more signature wins on their resume versus Ink Titans at this point. Ink Titans needs to knock off one of these consistent alpha bracket teams for us to take them more seriously as a contender to make alpha bracket. But I think they've shown, at least last month, they have the capability of doing it. They just have to go out and do it. So this might be a statement low ink for Ink Titans as far as how we see them going forward in the future. Hopefully low ink isn't stacked this month. It's stacked every single month. What do you mean hopefully it's not stacked? People want those $40. Symphony and Persistence just seem to play a lot better outside of low ink for some reason. I feel like playing at low ink there's more pressure because there's more expectations on a team like Symphony and Persistence, whereas if you play in something like Ink Theory, like, you're just happy to make top cut. For like a team like Persistence, anything short of winning low ink is a failure for them. And that's how we see it for them, and I don't know if it's fair for us to judge them like that or not, but they have to deal with more pressure playing in low ink than they do have to play in any other tournament, just because of the expectations schmucks like me put on them. But you guys do as well. Don't put this all on me. Teams I am questionable about before we get into the top 10. First off is ITAP. First off, my question is, I don't know if they're going to play or not. I don't know if they finished up finals or if they've been grinding. We haven't seen a lot of ITAP action lately. Gaysicle has been busy, though. Gaysicle won beta bracket last month with the pickup team. And I feel like I've seen Gaysicle do some other pickups in a tournament recently as well. So arguably one of their stronger players has still been active in the game, in the competitive scene. But what about the other members of the Core 4 ITAP team that's captured our hearts this year? I don't know. So if ITAP comes back, I don't know how strong they're going to be. I don't know if they're going to pick up where they left off, or if this is going to be like a rehab tournament for them. So I don't know if it's fair to put ITAP in the top 10 just yet. Need to see some more information from those guys. Epic Gamers Inc. This will be a statement low ink for this team. Are they the team that wowed us in October, or did they show us who they really were in November? So I think this is going to be the tournament where we figure out just who Epic Gamers Inc. really is going forward. Another team I got a question about is Nova. I know Nova feels like they have the firepower to win this tournament. Rocky sent me some information about what their team has been doing recently. They added a new player who isn't going to be eligible for low ink, so they know to play in low ink they have to practice with a player that's going to be a sub, and they're not going to have that same synergy with the sub that they do with their normal player. Despite this, I don't know. I feel like Nova has the experience. The core members of Nova have the experience to win this tournament, and I know they feel like they do as well. Just playing with the sub and not your actual members makes me kind of question if they're going to be a contender to win this tournament or not. But I know they have the mindset that they can do it, so that's really important going into this tournament. We have some breaking news from ITAP here. We just finished finals. We're still in and out of hiatus. If you don't see us in December, you'll see us in January. So there you go. No information gained there. They could play or they might not. Welcome to being a college kid. I still don't understand how college kids can play in tournaments or play competitive Splatoon or video games in general, but we like seeing you guys. Before I get into the top 10 teams I will not be covering, first off, Ravenous Raccoons. As AJ mentioned, they are going to do a pickup team, but I just now found out about that. Whatever pickup team that is, I think is a top 10 contender, but since I'm just now finding out about it, I'm not going to mention them at all in the top 10, but definitely a team that could win this tournament for sure. Vinto Gaming, sources tell me they might be disbanded. I'm not totally sure. If some form Frankenstein monster of Vinto Gaming were to come back like the Raccoons, they might have a shot at doing some damage in this tournament. Port Raccoon. The new rule is if you're Div 1 in that German DSB league, you get like one shot to win low ink and then you're done. They got their one shot last month, so I think they are officially banned going forward. So rip Port Raccoon. And Last Chance. I know some of you were big on Last Chance winning, and if they were to play in this tournament, they probably would win it. I don't know if they're going to be allowed or not, though. They finished 5th in paddling pool last month, beating Squidding Good. That's probably a sign that you're too good for low ink. So I don't know if the Last Chance guys are going to be in or not, if they're going to be allowed in or not. So there you go. If you're wondering, where's Last Chance? Why are they not on your top 10 list? That's why. Because I don't think they're going to be in there. Port Raccoon went off in paddling pool as well. I don't pay enough attention to paddling pool, and I feel like I should. Not for like Popcast purposes, but just to keep an eye on what the EU community is up to. Because a lot of those teams I don't know, and I don't understand. There's a lot of South American leagues and tournaments that happen as well that I don't really follow. And I don't follow them because it's like I don't understand the context. So many of those teams I don't know, so it's like this team beats that team. I don't know if that's significant or not. So there's a lot of non-ignorant American tournaments that I should probably be paying attention to. But we're moving on. We're now talking about the top 10. Number 10. I put out a tweet last month saying, what is your low ink top 10 for this month? A lot of you mentioned Geek Squids. A lot of you put Geek Squids in the top 5. Here's my problem with the Geek Squids, though. They've recently added a new player, Toya, who comes from Narwhal Gaming / Illmatic in the SAC finals. So that new player they've added, there is no way they're ever going to be allowed to play in low ink. Their resume is way too good. So Geek Squids are, again, it's kind of like Nova. They're playing with a player who they're getting synergy with, but they can't use that player in low ink or any of these lower level tournaments for that matter. So that's going to work against Geek Squids. They're either need to get a sub or just play without one of their stronger players. The good news for Geek Squids, though, is that they got third place in the Abyssal. They got third place in a tournament recently that Wiggler Ahoy played in and finished second. So and they played without Toya in the lineup for that tournament. So the Geek Squids, even without their new player, are still a really solid team. They make Alpha Bracket more consistently now than they have been in the past. The problem, though, as far as Low Ink is concerned, is they are not winning games on Sunday in Alpha Bracket. So before they start doing damage on Sunday, I can't really justify putting them higher than number 10 on this list versus all these other teams that have been doing damage on Sunday. But Geek Squids, if they can find a way to flip that switch on the Lord's Day, they have the potential to win this tournament. Number 9. I don't know if Oblivion has arrived yet or not, but their Saturday was pretty good last month, going 5-1 with their only loss coming against Valhalla. Their appearance in Alpha Bracket wasn't spectacular. A huge reason for that being was who they played on Sunday. They had fluency in winners round 1 and lost to BRK in losers round 2. On top of that, they weren't even going to play in November to begin with until they had a last-minute IRL schedule adjustment that freed up time for their players to be available. This time around, they registered early and had a whole extra month to gain synergy and experience with their updated roster. But if they want to make a deep run on Sunday, like we saw them do in Beta Bracket in October, we are going to need to see the Oblivion team that showed up in Swiss last month and hope that they end up with a better seeding in Alpha this time around to avoid the monsters early on. Done with that. Number 8. And this is where we're getting into some controversy here. The brand of persistence, or ultra persistence as they go by now, is too well known not to be on this top 10 list somewhere. The question marks for persistence are too significant, though, to warrant putting them any higher on this list than number 8. From last month's roster, one is now on Xylo, another retired. And yes, they did finish second place in Ink Cup, but 5 players on the roster for that tournament included both members who are now gone and a sub from Ravenous Raccoons. Hi, AJ. Their roster has always lacked consistency, which is why they usually overperform when we look down on them, and why they underperform when we start giving them praise. They did add a new player to their official roster recently, and I believe they're still recruiting now to fill Bear Paw spot. But until we get a new look at this new and improved ultra version of Persistence and Low Ink, I can't justify putting them higher than the other teams that are more consistent to them up to this point. This is going to be, is Persistence rebuilding, or are they just reloading? We'll find that out in this tournament. Number 7. Ryzen is back again, and about time too. And this time, they're in the mood. We haven't really seen these guys in Low Ink since August and September, where they finished in third place in in those 2 tournaments. But the only tourney they have on Battlefy outside of those 2 Low Inks is one of the Camo's Clan Clash, where they went 5-1 with a notable win coming against Tyrant Inc. So really all we have to judge them on is what they accomplished 3 months ago in Low Ink. The fact that all these other teams have more recent experience in this tourney will work against them. And when your biggest claim to fame in this tournament is 2 bronze medals, which is impressive, Persistence has claimed 2 silver medals, and I have them at number 8. The difference here is Ryzen has a more consistent roster than Persistence at this point, which usually leads to good things. But a lot of new monsters have popped up in this tournament since the last time we saw Ryzen, and we don't really know how they will deal with them. For that reason, I'm keeping them below the top 5 for now. Number 6. The thesis of Evening Chickens is they were always moving forward, never moving backwards. First time they played in low ink, they won Gamma Bracket. Then, the second time, they made Beta Bracket due to teams dropping. They originally qualified for Gamma, but they got moved up to Beta, and then they won that, beating Oblivion in a bracket reset. And then last month, their first time making Alpha Bracket. So they've been constantly climbing the bracket ladder and might just be the first team ever to win all 3 brackets in low ink. But last month, they beat the Raccoons and then had a close 2-3 loss to Squid Row and a 1-2 loss to Tyrant Inc. 2 teams, spoiler alert, that I have above them on this list. History shows, though, the Chickens are improving and keep improving at a consistent level. But the growth is going to be more steady now. Now that they've conquered Gamma and Beta, Alpha Bracket is a completely different beast altogether. There's a lot more monsters up there they have to deal with. They haven't caught up to everyone just yet, and they can't really pass them either. But what this team shows above everybody else is consistency. So if they're not there yet, watch them catch up now for real. Number 5. No Diving is going to have a good... Oh, wait, no. Sorry. Wrong team. Number 5. Tyrant Inc. is basically Evening Chickens, but better. By a very slim margin. That margin being a Game 3 Rainmaker win on Blackbelly. But same story. Since they've returned from their lengthy absence, started in February, they have been terrorizing teams in the lower level tourneys. They make top cut in basically everything they do in lower level tournaments, and they do damage in top cut. They actually win games in top cut. The question now is, can they find a way to go deeper than losers round 3 while keeping their distance between them and the Evening Chickens and all these other teams that they have leapfrogged over since they've come back from their hiatus? Thank you for jokingly putting you at number 5 on the top 10 list. Is No Diving even playing this month? Quit signing up for tournaments and drop it. Play in these tournaments. No Diving. Come on now. Number 4. Squid Row is starting to sign up more consistently now. Yay! Speaking of teams that sign up and drop, Squid Row has always signed up for low ink, but very rarely do they actually follow through and play in it. I think the main reason is that they've been playing in the Proton John League, and that's been kind of soaking up a lot of their time. But that, I believe, that is done now. And that might explain why we've been seeing them play more consistently in this tournament. It seems like they have a roster now that they are comfortable with. They finished at the top. They finished at the very top of Group B last month, which you guys know as well as I do. Group B was way stronger than Group A. So arguably, they had the tougher tournament on Saturday and finished at the very top of that group. Honestly, we don't talk about them enough because of their lack of consistency of playing in low ink. But another quick thing to note, they fell just one game short of defeating Fluency in winners semifinals. Lost my train of thought here. Where did I go? We don't talk about them enough. But these days seem to be getting better for them. They tied for 5th in the last tournament. And I think we should expect more from them this month around, especially since they're now, once again, playing more consistently. They always play one low ink and then just disappear for 3 months. And then they come back and then disappear. This will be the first time we see them play back to back. And I expect them to improve from 5th place where they finished last month and possibly win this whole tournament if seeding works out a little bit better in their favor. Number 3. Nobody has a more passionate fan base than Xylo. And I can already hear your keyboards typing with disgust that I'm putting them at number 3 and not at number 0 on my list. Last month, I mentioned them in my teams that I have questions about section, mainly because they had never played in low ink before, and it was difficult to gauge how good they actually were or how well they would actually do in this tournament. Several of you spammed the chat and my DMs saying that Xylo was going to win this tournament, and it wasn't even going to be close. Now, the actual players on Xylo are pretty cool, right? My friend Tiger was an emergency sub for them in the alpha bracket last month, and she said they were super nice and chill. So I don't blame them at all. It's just their fans that suck. Now, to be fair, they did have some roster issues last month. They had to drop round 6 of Swiss, and as I mentioned, needed a sub late on Sunday. But they weren't the dominant monster you guys were making them out to be. This month, however, I'm starting to buy into the hype for 2 reasons. One, they added Neo, the cracked Slayer from Persistence, to their roster. That's a big addition, and that just adding Neo to this Xylo roster sounds pretty much illegal, honestly. Like, this team sounds on paper to be really too good. And number 2, they finished 9th in Swiss of the 3rd midway tourney after adding Neo. Proof in the pudding right there. Strong team with this new roster getting good results. So combine this result with the success Xylo did have when they didn't need a sub last month, and I think we will see Xylo finish in the top 3 and challenge the 2 teams I have above them to possibly win this entire tournament. But if they do, don't DM me about it. I commentate grand finals. I see it happen, dummies. I don't need your inputs on it. Number 2. Uh-oh. Valhalla at number 2 sounds like a pick that a person would do just to be controversial. They're coming off the best low ink of any team to never win the tournament, and have finished 2nd place in low ink and Ash Cup, the only 2 lower level tourneys that they have played in up to this point. And another thing to note, the only 2 teams to beat them are Tetra teams, Luau and BRK, Blue Ring Kraken. Tetra teams have dominated low ink this year, but they're all gone. I can't think of a single Tetra team left that is in my top 10 list, unless somebody pockets it and is planning to just bust it out for the entire tournament. Here's something I want to point out, though. This is a really interesting stat. There have been 26 low ink tournaments up to this point. Of those 26, the team that finished in 2nd place the previous month has won the next low ink only once. That is 1 out of 25. Again, 25 because the first tournament doesn't count because there was no tournament before the first tournament, so we got to eliminate that one. But 1 defended one silver medalist team out of 25 silver medalists came back the next month to win Low Inc. The only team to win Low Inc. after finishing second the month prior was Deception back in October of 2019, but it took them 2 attempts to do it because they finished in second place in both September and August of the same year. So history is working well against Valhalla here. Statistically speaking. So statistically speaking, for a list of top 10 teams who could win Low Inc., Valhalla technically shouldn't be on here at all. But in all seriousness, despite the statistical gods working against these gods, the only thing standing in Valhalla's way of victory is the added experience of these other teams that have gained in the past month. Both Xylo and Fluency have improved, and will likely face Valhalla in the later rounds of Sunday with their original rosters this time around. If seeding works out in their favor, they will only have to face one of those 2 teams on Sunday, which is critical because as I look at the teams in the tourney, those are the only 2 who pose any kind of threat to Valhalla. But I think the threat is significant enough to warrant a little bit of caution this time around. Number 1, and the team I'm predicting to win this Low Inc., even though the team I predict to win Low Inc. never has. This team played in Smasher Sync 11 last Wednesday. It was a pickup team called Friends. They lost in round 1. And then in losers bracket beat these teams: Tooniverse, Micklin Heroes, Narwhal Gaming, Arctic Moon, Azure, and ultimately lost in losers round 6 to Plushie, the team that won the entire tournament. Who put this team in losers bracket, beating them in winners round 1? Fluency. Uh-oh. This same Fluency team that finished 3rd last month and needed an emergency sub to do just that. In their second Low Inc., keep in mind, that was just their second Low Inc. These guys dominated until IRL issues slowed them down. With their actual roster now, and even more synergy and experience that they've gained playing in these other IPL tourneys, I think it's fair to put them above Valhalla here, honestly. Just based off of what they've been doing on tournaments outside of Low Inc. up to this point. I think it would be unfair to put them below Valhalla off of the accomplishments they've done in those tournaments. Now, it will be another great grand finals against these 2 teams if they were to play against each other. Once again, more clashing ideologies. Valhalla's turtle offense versus Fluency's aggression. And I have to give the edge to Fluency here, just based off of what they've been doing up to this point. I would go as far as to say that Fluency is going to be the next Luau. A team that has come up from nowhere, well, seemingly from nowhere, played in a few Low Incs. The only reason they didn't win it is because they needed a sub or something happened or somebody's internet router exploded, which literally happened on Luau when they won or finished second place in beta bracket. So there you go. I know this is a controversial pick, but I'm going with Fluency this month. And that concludes my top 10. Hey, if you're somebody who's looking at my top 10 and you're saying, wow, he undervalued my team, or wow, he overvalues my team, guess what? This is just a list that somebody came up with that lives in this house and has a stuffed moose behind them. Prove me wrong. I always start off my Monday Low Inks or my Monday recaps of Lowinks with apologies to teams that I screw up and get wrong. So if you're a team that I get wrong, I will apologize to you on Monday with the first thing I talk about on the next episode of the Popcast. So go out there, prove me wrong, have me commentate you in grand finals, and win this tournament. With that being said, if you would like to be a part of this Popcast in any way, feel free to reach out to me using the socials that are right down here below. Again, thank you to Carrot for making this awesome overlay for me. Twitter at Mr_Popgun, Discord at Popgun #5882, YouTube at 25Popgun, and of course you are watching this on Twitch live right now at Popgun25. I do not save the VODs onto YouTube or onto Twitch anymore. Instead, I keep them exclusively on YouTube. They only stay for 14 days on Twitch. Let's find somebody to raid real quick, and then I will be out the door. Let's go to my friend Marm. Marm Uwa. She's see what she is working on there. Hey, thank you for coming out. Thank you for watching. Wear a mask. We're almost at the finish line, or at least that's what they tell us. And have fun in the tournament.